Thank you, Ms. Gallagher. Everybody sit down.
Dr. August, before the adjournment, you wanted to find some documents that you wanted to answer my question regarding the samples of the same case following each other on the isolation work list, exhibit A9. Have you found the papers that you want to refer to?
Yes, my Lord, I have.
What is your answer with regards to those papers, Dr. August?
My Lord, I want to refer the court to 2 sets of electropherograms and 2 sample status reports. So if I could take the court through the page numbers, I will be referring to an electropherogram that runs over 2 pages, and it starts at page 523, and it concerns the shorts 120-69. The corresponding sample status report is found on page 3.
Sorry to interrupt you, because those are pages that is part of the paper trail that was given to the defense.
Correct, my Lord.
Okay, that is not before the court. So, is there something specific that you want to enlighten the court on the papers?
Yes, my Lord. I was under the impression they are before the court. If not, then
Would it suit you better to have that stand over maybe after lunch?
Indeed, my Lord, I can make copies during lunch. That is not a problem.
So we will leave the questions with regard to exhibit A9 for after lunch, Dr. August. Then moving on to exhibit A10. We have started dealing with the content of that document. The long and the short thereof is that based on the qualitative DNA of Colonel Otto, she agrees that the court can read either 2 or 3 profiles into that sample. You say that when the quantitative DNA is added, or data is added, I understand you correctly. I don't want to limit you, but I just want to move on from this point. I understand you correctly. You say that when the quantitative DNA data is added, one can in actual fact see that it's only 2 profiles.
Correct, my Lord. A mixture of 2 profiles.
Just with regards to the kit that was used by the this is something in your report. Exhibit E, where you refer to the number of loci used or alleles used by other countries to determine DNA profiles. I think it's A04, the list of, no, I'm sorry.
AO2, I believe, my Lord.
Yeah. AO2, correct. The 16 countries that you list, and then with how many numbers of alleles or loci they use, and from what date. Given your testimony in this regard, Dr. August, am I correct that at the time when the analysis in this matter was done in January 2015, actually for the whole of 2015, the kit that was used by the FSL was still very much in production and used. It was only, production there was only ended in 2016.
My Lord, yes, the 9 STR loci, so the Profile Plus kit that is used in this case was still being manufactured. It only stopped in December 2016. My Lord, if that that report was $15 709 to calculate what the remaining, what I handed in.
I wanted to ask you about that. That one must use more than
My Lord, the sign is there are programs matches in Arizona proven that two individuals, when you test more STRs,
you're talking about the random match probability. The Arizona random loci in one.
And two profiles further loci. I think they tested eventually, it was confirmed that they tested more than 9, and then that the match no longer existed. In fact, the match disappeared. The profiles no longer matched.
Added there to it's the random match probability in the sense that the trawl databases, it's not like a case we had in criminal cases where we had the suspect sample, the people into this, the evidence sample.
My Lord, the random match probability is literally a probability. That means what is the possibility or the probability of me finding out, going into the population as a whole and finding a random individual that will match this profile that's in front of me. So I agree with the state that it was done in a database which has its own issues, but the problem is that it was found and all the forensic laboratories have not made known what matches they find within their laboratories. Obviously, this is literally one of those events that brought about a change in the forensic science field. People realized that the more loci you use is actually better. If I could use the analogy of fingerprints, in the beginning everybody used only 7 points. Now there are countries using 27 points for comparison because there have been instances where we've seen in the literature that 7 points are no longer enough to declare a fingerprint a match. And those are written up in the forensic science literature. So similar in the DNA literature, it has become common cause that 9 is problematic.
And in South Africa, 7 points is still used for...
My Lord, yes, I'm not a fingerprint expert. I can only testify to what I'm reading in the literature. There are several examples now that have been documented where...
All I'm saying is that you have examples in South Africa. In South Africa, 7 points are still used as well. 7 points is still used.
That may be the case, my Lord.
So are you suggesting that we should relook even our fingerprinting system?
My Lord, I'm not a fingerprint expert, but I hear what the fingerprint experts in my field are talking about, and they're quite alarmed about the fact that we are still using 7. And I cannot testify further than that.
So are you suggesting, you're not giving your own view on it, but
No.
you're putting it on the agenda that there's something wrong with South Africa's fingerprinting system?
My Lord, I can only say
scientist.
what I read in the forensic science literature, that it is problematic. And when I hear my fingerprinting colleagues speak at conferences and within our discussions, they voice that it's problematic to them, an issue that they will have to address.
Dr. Walker, you've mentioned it already. Isn't it also correct that the whole Arizona issue arose because there was no population database available from which they could make calculations of the probability match?
My Lord, I'm not familiar exactly how this came about, that this particular scientist, Catherine Troyer, searched in her database, but she became interested in finding out how many matches there were, specifically after she found this one where the profiles matched on 9 STRs, but they were distinct different people.
And to add to that, when you say you don't know how she found the matches in the database, but in South Africa we have the nice thing, so to speak, that we do have a population database that is used by the laboratory.
My Lord, I'm aware that there is a national DNA database.
So it is possible for the laboratory to do a match probability based on the national database. They don't have to rely on random match probability.
My Lord, they can indeed calculate the random match probability from the allele frequencies of the alleles of the group of profiles within the national DNA database.
Now getting back to exhibits AAA 11 to 13, Dr. August, I just want to understand what exactly you point out in court. You mentioned in your paragraph 3.7.1.1 to 3.7.1.3 in exhibit EE, your report. You mentioned that you find certain alleles in those 3 samples. You refer to the 22nd allele at FG8 and the 13th allele at G8. With regards to sample EE13. And then I'm doing it out of order, AAA11, you call an allele the number 8 allele at position D13. And exhibit AAA12, you again call A22 at the FG8 position.
My Lord, if I can just have one moment to make a note, please. My Lord, I want to just verify that I understand the state correctly. The state is asking me whether at exhibit AAA11 I found an 8 allele at locus D13. That's at AAA11. Whether I found a 22 allele at locus FGA on AAA12. And on AAA13, if I found a allele at FGA locus and a 13 allele at the D8 locus. Do I understand the question correctly?
Indeed, Dr. Officer. I'm just trying to verify if I'm correct in what you testified.
My Lord, that is not correct. And can I point out to the court what the difference is? In my report, I state that there are a foreign peak. So, for instance, let's take AAA 13, 3.7.1.1. In the second, let me read the whole paragraph. The sample marked as swab blood spatter 105, and then it gives a PA number. A swab stated to have been taken from wooden bench in the top floor passage. Foreign peaks are present at the position of the 22 allele at the FGA locus and at the position of the 13 allele at the D8 locus, with corresponding alleles, thus 22 at FGA and 13 at D8, not present in any of the Van Breda family reference profiles. My Lord, this distinction is critical. I make no statement about a foreign allele that I find. I made a statement about a foreign peak or foreign peaks that I found.
That is what I wanted to ascertain from you, Dr. Officer. Are you calling these alleles or are you merely calling them peaks?
I'm calling them foreign peaks.
Foreign peaks. And what is the purpose of pointing these foreign peaks out to the court, Dr. Officer?
My Lord, the reason is twofold. One is that there are these foreign peaks present in these profiles that the reports submitted to the court by Lieutenant Colonel Otto remain silent on. It's not mentioned at all. That's the one reason. And my Lord, I can almost imagine, but I want to go back to ISO,
Yes, no, but you,
to the ISO guide.
answer, please, that you
Yes.
need some answer there. But
So the first part is that. The second part is that these peaks, these foreign peaks, are present exactly at the position where, if it was an allele, it would be present at the position of the 22 allele and not any of the other alleles. And the 22 allele is not present in this family. So it's a foreign peak present at the position.
There's no except that you're correct there, but what is the effect of it?
My Lord, that there is an unexplained peak.
Yes, but what's the effect of that being
So the
unexplained?
effect could be that it could be a very low level profile that is present, of which we see only this one peak.
Now, what's the possibility of that?
My Lord, that I cannot calculate.
What's the probability of that? You can't say.
I can't say. So it could be an allele, exactly as Lieutenant Colonel Otto stated. It could be an allele, or it could not be an allele. Hence, I erred in the side of safety, and I just called it a foreign peak.
That's inconsequential for this case.
My Lord, it's a peak that the state stayed silent on.
Yes, well, what's this,
at the level.
What's the consequence? How does it impact upon this case? Except what you say is correct, that there's a foreign peak, whatever it is.
So, my Lord,
What's the effect of that for the purposes of this case?
so if it were an allele, that would have a specific meaning. At this point, we cannot say whether it is an allele or not, because if we look at page 716 of the electropherogram,
I do not wish to interrupt you, Doctor, please. We have to get done with the evidence on that. All we are saying, what's the consequence of that? Why are you mentioning that for this case? This is some consequence to that.
Yes, my Lord. And the consequence is that there could be a very low-level mixture present in these samples, of which this perhaps is the only allele that is high enough to be scored by the system. We see in this...
But you can't say with any certainty that that is a result.
I cannot say that it is an allele. I cannot say that it is not allele. So Colonel Otto and myself, we actually agree on that point.
Please carry on.
Dr. Hawkins, that is exactly why Colonel Otto testified that she's not going to comment on that foreign peak when she was questioned about this cross-examination, because she says you cannot identify it as anything in particular, neither stutter, nor shoulder stutter, nor an artifact, nor a false allele. You cannot do so, and she's not going to comment on it. You now say you and she agree on that, so why do you still point this out to court?
My Lord, we agree that we cannot call it an allele or not an allele. What is, why it is highly relevant is that it points to that there is something that cannot be explained within this profile. And in terms of the science and the terminology of the standards that we use, we call that something that would contribute to the uncertainty of measurement, which is mandated by 17025 to be present. In fact, I was previously also asked whether the FSL's SOPs are aligned to 17025, and I will still get to that. So the uncertainty of measurement or any uncertainty attached to a result should be reported, and it was not.
Now let's get back to your own evidence in chief on how you came about to note these foreign peaks of August. Because said, your testimony began with saying that I only got black and white copies of the EPGs, not the electronic or color versions as I requested.
My Lord, I have subsequently realized that that because with this rule color, or if that what the fragment sizes, that was not
what I wanted to put in topics which you have to put it over a line to, and I quoted the words, to get the idea, and then you estimate your evidence. All of this you the uncertain.
There's no basis.
anything could get. In fact, some from the FSL, the copies received, and the rule transparency. It is better to line right on the literally of the transparency, and because the transparency is how exactly whether these peaks are in position. So I use the best tools that are of the measurements that I made in my testimony.
Then also, Dr. Hawkins, it doesn't stop there. You say you find this one foreign, two foreign peaks. You don't label them as allele. Sure what they actually are. That's why.
In a diagram is match this allele to another allele. The copy that we work from the heights of the other smaller peaks were. My Lord, if I may, and that is the my Lord, I am just looking for the sample status reports that belong, that these samples are matched to. And it will just take, I apologize, my Lord, I just need to find the reference that I have. No, my Lord, not yet. My Lord, I do not have a reference that I could quickly find the sample status reports of these profiles.
Sorry, Mr.
Sure.
Yes, that was what I was looking for, my Lord. Thank you to whoever mentioned that. My Lord, may I finish? Thank you, my Lord. Thank you, my Lord. So one of these samples, the wooden bench sample at AAA13, when I looked at the sample status report on page 959 of the data file paper trail, what we looked for on the sample the system called any artifacts in that profile, because that would have guided us to say we agree with them, we just cannot identify the artifact, or let's see if we can identify the artifact and then state we agree with them. When I looked at the sample status report of the wooden bench swap 105 or exhibit 105, but I have it as exhibit EE7. For the sample, the following statements or abbreviations are listed. FP, which means full profile, which means there's alleles at all the loci. And then the abbreviation LLMX, which means low-level mix. So I only saw the sample status report after realizing that there were. I looked at the sample status report, I saw that in this case the system agreed that there was a low-level mix of something. The system could also not agree on what. On the next sample, there were the comments. This is now the sample of the fingernail swab of the right hand of Mr. Martin van Breda. So that would this sample status report is on page 339, and it corresponds to AAA 12, exhibit AAA 12. So the profile of Rudy van Breda was found in the sample, and the fingernail swab is from his father. At the time that it was done, there were artifact peaks present, etc. And my lord, and that is not surprising. Some of these forensic samples are quite challenging to process. The result that was used there is a FPMX, a full profile mix, reported. But very important for us, no artifacts were indicated. Then when I look at the Duvet 1384, wooden bench, so this would be exhibit AAA 11. When I look at the sample status report 9 on page 947, again the system genotypes at every locus. It also called a low-level mix, LLMX, but it called no artifacts, which was important. Our assessment that it is not an artifact agrees with the assessment of the FSL that it is indeed not an artifact. And I suggest, or I suspect it is for that reason that when Lieutenant Colonel Otto testified, she testified the same as I am testifying today. We all looked at it, we all agree it's not an artifact, but we cannot categorically say it is an allele or part of a profile, because there may be a very low-level mix there, of which this is perhaps above a certain threshold, which is 50 RFU in this case.
And I just interrupt you at the point of Colonel Otto said, we don't really know if it's legal, I don't want to call it. I may comment it, but I'm not going to because the gene mapper and you say the system agreed, they could also not, the system could also not agree on exactly what this is, so it didn't call it. But you, using information where you say the resolution isn't good, and you have to go to take some steps to get to some point where you can decide where this peak is, you are willing to call this peak in all the information that you've got. You've got no problem with that.
My lord, there is definitely a foreign peak at that position. What it is, neither Lieutenant Colonel Otto nor myself can state.
Now, you propagate Dr. Orcus that one should take all information into account before you make a finding or a decision on information. You are aware that in this matter, sorry, and it is stated in exhibit WW1, it is the statement of Warrant Officer Nell. Paragraphs 11 and 13, and there are also affidavits to the effect of this having been done in the case Dr. It was supplied to the defense, so it is not something that they're not aware of. It is the fact that buccal samples, and I hope I pronounced it correctly, buccal samples were obtained from the two domestic workers, Ms. Precious Munyangani, who testified in this court, and Clara Zvemisha, who did not testify, as well as all of, well, most of the first responders who were on the scene.
To spell the names.
For the record, my lord, Precious, the English word Precious, Munyangani, M-U-N-Y-O-N-G-A-N-I, and Clara Zvemisha, that's C-L-A-R-A, Z-V-E-M-I-S-H-A.
Okay.
And then there were also vehicle samples obtained from the first responders, That would be Mr. Victor Isaacs, Mr. Axel Mouton, Axel AXEL, Mr. Martin Jones, and Mr. Tristan Kuchenberg, who testified in this court. These samples were also obtained and formed part of the DNA that was analyzed. And when you consider these samples, I may hand you a copy of, I have a bundle prepared for the witness as well as the court and the defense.
Can we give it a number?
That would be EEE 12 and not mistaken law.
My Lord, I have not seen this before. Can I take some time to just
Yes, of course you may.
over it?
You want to?
Perhaps
And also,
to...
we haven't seen this at all, so obviously we can't say anything about it at this stage.
Okay, do you want to look at it first?
Yeah.
Just, you want to adjourn for 5 minutes or so? How long do you get to look at it? Well, we can see how long it will take you. I'll adjourn for 5, 10, 20 minutes if you wish.
Thank you, my Lord. There's 6 pages. It will probably take me just... my Lord, if I'm not done in 15 or 20 minutes, is there...
So we just adjourn earlier for lunch and then...
Yeah, my Lord, maybe...
she wants to have a look at it.
I understand. Maybe if they can just tell her what she wants from it.
Yeah, do that. Yeah, okay. Thank you, Mr. Combrand. Are you happy with that, doctor,
Yes.
or do you want to get the whole document?
My Lord, if I know what the state is going to point me to, then it will be easier to verify.
Thank you. Mrs. Keller?
The first page there of Dr. Walker's is the sample status report of Precious Munyungani, who doesn't make any contribution with the relevant 22 or 13 at the positions that you pointed out. If you move over, page over, the second page is Ms. Clara Zwendisha. If you have a look at her profile, she adds a 22 at the FGA. That is the sort of in the middle of the page where it says accept result, FP, no history, the third column, FGA 22. Move on then. The third page is Victor Isaacs. Mr. Isaacs also adds a 22 at FGA. This is the last block or column under the accept result. The last one of the second row. And if you page over, Martin Jones. This gentleman indeed adds a 13 at D8. That is the first block in the first line under accept result. Page around over again. So that's Mr. Christian Kuchenberg. He doesn't add anything to the mix. The last page is Mr. Axel Mouton. And he adds a, which is the 8. He adds a 13 at D8. That is again the first block in the first line. So, if you have regard to that information, Dr. Orkers, quite an innocent explanation for your low-level foreign fees.
My Lord, if I may request, is it possible, I have not seen this before.
You want to have a look at it?
Yes, I would like to have a look at it. And could I also request from the state the electropherograms, so the EPGs that accompany this?
Have you got that, Stella?
Not at hand at the moment, but I can get it.
Can you get it next hour or so?
I can telephone to an author, and I'm sure she can email it to me. But then I would request it be adjourned now so I can contact her. Give her enough time to obtain the papers.
Yes,
can.
Not reading to adjourn, and then in the course of the adjournment, Ms. Gallagher makes the documents available to the witness that she seeks, and then she can have a closer look at the documents.
I just want to point out that Colonel Ocho was testified, cross-examined on this very aspect. There was no evidence presented at the time as to an explanation for this. And now it's been presented. I doubt that is the correct way to do it.
But this emerges directly from the cross-examination of the witness. From the evidence his witness is giving.
They were cross-examined on this very aspect. And they could have led any evidence that they had to their.
Well, I can answer that. Because firstly, Colonel Otto said, I'm not going to call this an allele or a peak or anything because I'm not sure about what it is. It wasn't labeled. Then she said, we also do not know whether it might be domestics or anybody else on the scene. That was the evidence in cross-examination board. So this is nothing new.
The problem of this is illustrated by the fact that we can't consult with this witness about this very aspect which was dealt with by Colonel Otto, during cross-examination. Now that we present documentation to her, we have to, how do we as a defense team deal with that, something that clearly should have been dealt with in the evidence in chief?
No,
but when I asked her about it, of course she could.
Yeah.
So how must we deal with it as in defense if we can't consult about this one?
You can deal with it in re-examination.
Yeah, but that's not fair, my lord.
So how do you suggest we deal with it? You tell me. Just ignore the document.
My lord, she's not allowed to do this. I mean, where would this end now? Would she? Who's going to testify about, for instance, this if further she's going to be recalled Colonel Otto about something which I already dealt with her in cross-examination?
My lord, I don't understand how defense can say this is new. The evidence of the vehicle swaps of the domestics and the first responders, it was obtained as part of the docket that was given to the defense. The fact that it was received at the forensic laboratory was part of Warrant Officer Nell's statement, where she says, I received these samples. Colonel Otto was asked about this in cross-examination. Whatever it was that Dr. Otto's found in Exhibit 888, 11 to 13 was put to Colonel Otto. She said, I'm not going to comment on this. I cannot say anything about this because it wasn't labeled. I'm not allowed in terms of SOPs to do that. She belaboured the point below. Then she said, one of the reasons why I cannot comment on this is I cannot even say it is an allele. It might be an allele because we don't know. It might have been contributed by the domestic workers or anybody else. That was the evidence below. This witness now testifies and says, I find foreign peaks. She says, as much, I find foreign peaks in the evidence. I'm trying to show her that Colonel Otto was correct. It might be the domestic workers or the first responders. I cannot understand how this cannot be.
Yes.
And we were at pains to ask her a report from the defense. We only received it the Friday before the witness started to testify. And throughout this case, we have been surprised by documents handed in by the defense.
Yes,
they got from.
My lord, I just want to point out something further. Colonel Otto was sitting in that witness box. Everybody knew what I took it through and what explanations there could or could not be for that. She had re-examination, talking about re-examination and an opportunity to use re-examination. During re-examination, all she would have had to do then is say, well, Colonel Otto, you've listened to what has been put to you in this regard. Look at these documents. Is there an innocent so-called explanation for this? Why? That is clearly what the state should have done. They should have, at that stage, either a re-examination, well, they should plainly have done it in re-examination. And then we could have dealt with it. We would have had the opportunity to consult with our witness. And then make a call on it where and decide, for instance, what further evidence we want to present. This is clearly not, I implore you not to allow this.
So why do you want to exclude this?
Oh, Lord, because we've been devoid of opportunity. Why didn't they deal with it? Are they going to get another?
Is that your explanation?
Yes. Why should they be given another bite of the cherry as far as that's concerned? They closed their case. We've never seen this before, my lord. We've never seen this before.
But here, your witness, Mr. Combrand, sorry.
No.
Mr. Combrand, please. Thank you for pointing me out. I will not allow myself to say your name incorrectly. Mr. Combrand, this witness on the cross-examination. This evidence emerges directly from what she's saying. It was dealt with in the course of the cross-examination of Colonel Otto. I see no reason why it can't be introduced at this stage of evidence. What I will do is I shall adjourn for her to look at the document, to comment on it if she wants to. If she elects not to comment, that's her choice. And also for Ms. Galloway to attempt to obtain the other documents she wants. Where will you be here with the lunchtime? Where do you go to?
My lord, we usually uses a boardroom at the council's chambers.
So perhaps the police can, if you find the document, the other document she wants, they can just, if it's available, we can take it to the boardroom at, you go to chambers? You go to chambers?
No, it's Leeuwen Chambers.
Leeuwen Chambers. Okay, then know where it is.
My lord, if I can just ask this, at this point I'm not requesting the entire paper trail because there is no time. I will request only then this sample status report and the electropherograms that goes with it. And can we then also ask for the electropherograms in the same way that we receive the other electropherograms? So where the scales are at where we can see the top of the highest peak, and also where we can see what is happening around the 50 RFU cut-off point.
Yes, thank you. So Ms. Keller, will you make it available to her?
As soon as I
Call to the journal.
My lord, there's two aspects further. One is, firstly, I just want to point out one more thing, and that is, what is the position now going to be? Is the state going to? The state cannot present evidence. Ms. Galloway is not testifying. She's not. She's telling us.
Yes, you can deal with this matter in re-examination, but you can address me again after lunch if you wish.
Right. I just wanted to note my objection.
Yes, you can note your objection and you can deal with it in re-examination. It's called journal.